When we talked about adding and editing users before, we mentioned roles inside of WordPress. So I want to look at the built-in roles that come with WordPress. Now, you may have a plugin that adds some additional roles, and that's fine. Depending upon what your plugin is doing and how you're using WordPress, you might need additional roles. But I just want to look at the 5 roles that come with WordPress by default. So the first role is subscriber. And by default, if a user creates an account for themselves or you create an account for a user, they get subscriber. This has no writing or editing capabilities at all. All they can do is read content. You might go, well, why would I want something like that? Because by default, I can read as an anonymous user. And you would be correct. However, the subscriber role can maybe give access to pages that aren't publicly available, or you can actually, with some plugins, lock out everyone. And so only someone who's a registered user can see it. Plus, if they're a registered user and they've logged in, then writing comments becomes a little bit easier because it remembers who they are and fills out that part of the form for them. If I want to change it, I just have a little drop down here and I can move next to my contributor. And my contributor is very simple. It's a role that lets me create a WordPress post, but I can't publish it. So I can create content, I can't publish it. This will have to be done by someone else. Now, your contributor might be a great example of where you have like an intern. They're creating content, but you need someone to kind of look over them and make sure they're doing the right thing. Now, if I want to move them up to the next level, I'm going to do an author. An author can create posts and pages, and they can publish them. So this is very helpful because now you don't have to have someone looking over their shoulder, making sure they're okay. They can post the content themselves. We trust them enough to do that. Editor is the next step up because an author can only publish their own content. They can only edit their own content. An editor allows you to edit other people's content. And this becomes very powerful. And I've created editors on my own sites occasionally. Even though I'm also the administrator, I might give someone else an editor type of role. That way they can look at my content and go, oh, you know what would be really good is if this was a little bit different, maybe we need to reword this or I need to change this. They can go and make changes. And so editors have a lot of power about that, but it's all still limited with the posts and the pages. The administrator is the one that has all the power. You might say, well, what type of power do they have? Well, the editors and authors, things like that, they can't add themes or add plugins. They can't do an update to a website if there's a plugin that needs to be updated. You have to have the administrator do that. So I set up a website for my wife one time and I made her as an editor. That way she doesn't have to worry about the administrative things. In fact, she doesn't even see most of those items on the left menu there. Okay, so she's not going to see the ability to add users or tools or any of those types of things. And I just want to make it really simple for her. And she liked that because it was very easy for her to work with. She didn't have to know HTML or didn't have to know WordPress. She just had to know how to create the real basic content. She does get this top menu and it shows a little update. You can see an update here on this screen where it needs 2 updates, and that's pretty simple to do. And so you go, well, how does she do it? Well, she couldn't. Not until I logged in as an administrator. Then I could go and run all those updates for her. So she could see that they need to be updated. She just couldn't do it. She doesn't get the other menu options, but she saw that the updates were needed so she can tell me. And so that's the role of the administrator. Typically, you only want to have a couple of administrators at most. That way, if someone's maybe, you're in a work environment and someone's out on vacation or they're out sick, you don't have to try to call them up and get them to do something. You have the other administrator do it. But even with hundreds of users, you don't need very many administrators. How many editors, authors, and contributors is going to be based solely upon the needs of the organization that you're working with in WordPress.